Welcome, everyone, to another session, another episode of Journeys of Faith. And today our guest is Mary Lou Goodwin. Mary Lou has been a longtime parishioner at Our Lady of the Assumption Church. I've known her for 40 years. I think it's 60 years now.
That's
You've
right,
been a
Father.
member of OLA. So really a hearty welcome to you, Mary Lou. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Father.
Let's begin with your childhood, your early years growing up. Mary Lou, we found in this series that the early years, our childhood, so formative, in our relationship with the Lord and the church. So how about you, growing up in your early years, what was it like for you?
Well, my father was of Italian descent. My grandparents came from Italy. My mother's father came from England, and her grandmother came from Ireland. So
Okay.
I'm a little mixed marriage,
Yes.
a little mixed up there. So my father and mother, we had a very wonderful childhood. They were very loving parents, taught us to love God, had us go to church with them, and as young children, I can always remember we always made the 13 Tuesday to St. Anthony. My father had a great devotion to St. Anthony.
Okay.
So we used to do that as a family.
Okay.
And I was very close to my dad. They brought us, we went to, I had one sister, and we went to St. Joseph's School in Lynn, for grammar school. And we both went to St. Mary's Girls High. So we graduated from there, and our parents were very loving and very much into faith. My father was into the Holy Name Society.
Of course.
My mother in the Fidelity. So we had that background that we always, church was very important in our life.
That seems to be an early indication of how we ourselves are practicing our faith or
Right.
involved in our parish and everything. So you would consider them your first role models.
Oh,
then
yes.
In
Yes,
faith.
yeah. And they were great, hard-working parents. They came through the Depression, so they were very hard-working, and they always saw that we had everything we needed. As good parents, they were very good parents to us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous gift, to have, that kind of upbringing, where you have the parents setting such a good example, their work ethic, their reliance on God, their love of God, the prayer
Yes.
that you did as a family. And were there any holiday routines that you could
Yes.
recall?
On the
that had
Italian side of the family,
Okay.
Christmas was very important.
Okay.
It was the night before Christmas, the 7 fishes, and we did that, my father's whole family.
Okay.
And so that was very important. Christmas Day, we were always together
Beautiful.
with the whole family.
Great.
So that was great. Yeah.
Excellent.
We have wonderful memories of that.
Aren't they? Yeah,
Yes,
they really kind of sustain us over the years.
Yes.
We always kind of go back to the beginning of our lives and
Right.
our stories that happened at that time. Tell me about, so you then, become a teenager, you're in your young adult years. How about you, as you gain more independence, from your parents?
I got married late in life.
Okay.
I was 30 when I got married. So
Okay.
most of my friends married younger in those years, but
Sure.
Les and I used to joke about we'd never see 50. But God gave us 55. So
That's great.
We were blessed with that. And so I went to, after school, I went to Burdett, took classes, went to Bentley, took classes at Bentley. And I worked for an automobile dealer, still working for him.
Great.
And I love it. And so it's what keeps me going, that in church.
Beautiful.
Church is a very important part of my life right now.
As you moved into young adulthood, and some of our guests, I think, have emphasized this, it's kind of a crossroads time for young adults. You're less reliant on your parents, you
Right.
gain independence, you kind of venture off on your own. you begin to make your own decisions and chart your own career. So how about you, moving into young adulthood and faith? What role did faith and prayer and church play at that time?
It was important. I had gone to different retreats. I can remember one, the sisters had it on Linshore Drive. I forget the denomination of the nuns, but they had a retreat there. I was involved in that. My friends, we were all still from high school, still friends, and still involved in the church. So it was a great time in my life. I enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah.
It's sometimes if you have that peer support,
Oh,
especially in young adulthood, that can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And I still have friends that from high school that before the pandemic, we met once a month for lunch, and so still have a strong support group there from high school.
Beautiful.
Which is great.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So then you get married to Les.
Right.
And you begin, your role as husband and wife and also parents.
Right. And one of the things, Les wasn't a Catholic when we married. And the only thing he asked me was if we could have the children, if we had children, to go to public schools. So I said, yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
So when it came time to register Paul, I registered him in Lynn. And that night he came home and he said, you registered him? And I said, yes. He said, would you like him to go to Our Ladies? And I said, oh God, yes, of course I would. So he said, well, why don't you try to see if you can get him into Our Ladies? So
wow.
I went up to Sister and we got him in, and we, as a family, would go to church. I never pressured him. He would come with us sometimes and sometimes not. And then we had Julie 4 years later, and she went to kindergarten at Our Ladies, and more and more he would come to different activities at the school. And one Sunday we were at Mass, and Father Gillespie had a blurb in the bulletin. He was having classes. So when we got home that day, he said to me, I'd like to go to the classes. Well, I almost fainted. So
classes to inquiring about the Catholic faith.
Yes, inquiring about coming into the church.
Okay.
He said, would you go with me? I said, of course I would. So we started the classes together. And it was a complete surprise. I never asked him. I never pressured him. He just would come with us when he wanted. And so it was just a wonderful feeling. I can't tell you how much it meant to me to have him come.
Wonderful. And
that Easter, he came into the church.
At the Easter Vigil or something.
Yeah.
Isn't that great, though? Mary Lou, had he had any religious background or
his family was very much involved, and they were congregational. They were very involved.
Okay.
And he had 4 sisters and his mother, and they were very involved in their church. So I'm sure it was a hard decision for him to come, but he did it on his own, and it was the best thing he could have done.
And Mary Lou, let's talk about, from that experience, what advice would you give to a married couple, one of whom was Catholic, the other was not, and you would really love, at least internally, you would really love for your spouse, to convert to Catholicism. What advice would you give people in that situation?
Not to force them. It has to be on their own. Example, going to church with you, with the children, seeing what they're doing. Just, I think a lot of his example, the people they come into contact, and we have such a strong social and prayerful group at church that welcomes everybody. And that means so much. And they welcome you with open arms here. I don't know if there's any other church that is so welcoming as ours. We are so blessed.
We are indeed. I second everything you just said about Our Ladies and the people. I don't know that they realize they play a big role in just welcoming people, such as they did Les, and so no pressure.
No pressure.
That would be number one. Set a good example.
And it has to be from them coming, seeing what is happening. It has to be
just accompanying you.
Right.
to Mass with the children present. You were
Oh,
together
yes.
as a family, and that must have had an impact on
Oh,
him
it
as
did.
well.
It did.
Yeah.
And then this past, 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, my sister passed, and the outpouring of love from the different ones in church has been, I can't tell you how much it's meant.
And I'm sure Les felt that too.
Oh, but when he passed, it was unbelievable.
That was really
Yeah.
an outpouring of love and, again, support for you.
Oh, yes,
And,
yeah.
There's nothing like it.
No, there isn't. Our church is, it has to be one of the tops. Thank to you, Father Tony, and all the priests that we've had before you. It's been wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did you feel? You know, I'm just trying to imagine what that would be like when, you know, obviously he had read this little blurb in the bulletin
Right.
that Father
I was
Gillespie.
amazed. I was shocked.
You must have been.
I was.
But
I had no
weren't-
idea he was
Yeah.
even thinking of it.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I had no idea. It just came from him, just something that must have just tricked it, and it was just a complete surprise.
But I do agree that, you know, that non-pressure
Right.
coupled with your example.
And I think the example of the children in school, the
Yes.
nuns, and their upbringing in school, and what he saw from them, how well they were.
He saw the positive influence
yes,
on the
yeah.
Catholic Church and the Catholic
Right.
school
Right.
that, you know, prompted him, okay, I want to belong to
Yeah,
this myself.
Because Julie went to Bishop Fenwick, Paul went to the prep. So all of that taken in together, I think, made a big difference, seeing the lifestyle and everything of the young men and children that they met at school and how they were brought up. I think that made a big difference to them too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how did you and Les approach, obviously you two were the primary educators of your children in the faith. How did you and Les approach that with your children to try to help them, you know, learn how to be a Catholic and
Well, when they were
to
young,
live
we
the
used to
gospel?
take them up to bed at night and they'd have to kneel down and say their prayers.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
you know, they just little things like that. And
Yeah.
my mother and father lived across the street from us, and they were very much involved in the children too. So I think seeing the grandparents, and my father would be out there first thing in the morning, Sunday morning, to go to church. And he was very early. He always had to be first. And he was an usher at Our Lady's too.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
was an
goodness.
usher there for many years. So I think, you know, seeing the grandparents and being a close-knit family, we had a wonderful, wonderful life.
Well, you're a grandmother now, speaking of
Oh,
grandparents.
yes, I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter, and they are wonderful, wonderful kids.
Tell me, I have found over the years, first of all, with my own parents in relation to their grandchildren, but now, you know,
Yeah,
so many other grandparents, they have a really important role in passing on the faith, you
right.
know, to their grandchildren. They can support the parents in many ways
Yeah.
in sharing the faith. So how have you found that, Mary Lou, with your own grandchildren?
Well, when Les was at the end there, one of my grandsons went and sat with him, and one couldn't and one could, and he just sat with him until he was gone. And then last week down in Maryland, we all were with my sister in her bedroom, and so she was at home, so her children and my children were there too. So we were all, and the priest had come from the Cathedral of Mary in Baltimore, and he was there, and it was bittersweet, but it was a wonderful experience to be with her at the end.
You know, I think those experiences can leave lasting memories of being together in a time of loss. And when families are able to do that, that is a way of comforting and sustaining them, you know, in their loss.
Yeah, we had a lot of laughs, a lot of sadness, but it was a wonderful time to be together at a very sad time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mary Lou, you have been involved in just about every phase, every aspect of Our Lady's church life over all of these decades. It probably isn't any role you haven't played, other than the clergy, of course.
I enjoyed it. I was involved in the school when the children were in school, and we had a wonderful mothers group there, and still see some of those people. And it's a long history, but it's been a wonderful one.
So, and obviously, whether it's your involvement in the social group, or I know you were on the pastoral council for quite a while, and you are so involved, the extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. First of all, what is your motivation for being so involved, immersed in the community life at Our Lady's, and what have you gained from it as well?
A lot of comfort, and if you don't, I wonder what people do that they don't have anything to fall back on when you have hard times. Where do you turn? I mean, if you can't turn to God, where do you turn? It's just, you need that strength that the church gives you, and that's, I find that a lot of comfort in that.
It is very comforting, but you also have, I think, knowing you as I do, this desire to serve, to help, to be involved.
I'm a good follower, not a leader.
So give her what she needs to do, and
Tell me what you want to do, and I'll do it.
But what do you gain, from so much service over the years to Our Lady's? You're still serving, of course, in different ways. What do you gain, from all that service?
Oh, a sense of a love from the people that you come into contact with, and it's just a sense of warmth. And I have one of my friends at church here, when she sees me, we give each other a hug. And we need those hugs so many times.
Absolutely.
And she knows we need the hugs, and I need them, and she does too, I'm sure.
I have noticed over the years at Our Lady's the long-term friendships that have formed there, and how that really sustains you. I'm still thinking of Les's 90th birthday party.
Right. Yeah, he was so surprised.
That was really so touching. It must have been for you too. I think it was for him.
Oh, yes, No, his 90th birthday, that was completely a surprise for him.
Yeah.
Because that's when he started to go down.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful, and he enjoyed it so.
And I think that experience and many, many others like it at Our Lady's reminds me that friendships do develop, in church life. It's certainly the spiritual life that feeds us, the Word of God, the sacraments, the liturgies, all of those things sustain us, of course. But if you add to that your involvement in community life, the friendships you form, the support that you get from very loving people.
And it's from, I received a card yesterday from a parishioner that just seeing her in church, that we're not that close, but she was so thoughtful to remember my sister. And I mean, it's surprising the lives that touch you, that you really don't know that these people even think of you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful, we're so blessed. We are.
I think you're highlighting something that I'd like every Catholic to really think about and pray about, and that is get involved, be part of the community in its service, in its outreach, in everyday life. Whatever your gift and your time allow, by all means. The more you're involved, the more you'll receive, from
that's true.
The Lord, the community, the life of the mission of the church.
Right. And we've received so much from you, priest. You've been a blessing to us years ago, and we're so happy to have you back with us. And both you and Father Tony. And Father Tony, I hope you're doing well. My prayers and thoughts are with you. and I hope he's doing as best as
At this
he can.
moment, we're all praying for our parochial vicar, Father Tony. He had heart surgery, and he is convalescing now. He's in the rehab recovery time of his responding to the surgery.
Yeah.
So we certainly have him in prayer. My final question, Mary Lou, is one I've asked all of our guests so far. Based on your life experience, the story that you just shared with us, your early years, the role of your parents in your life, your marrying less, having children, his conversion to the faith, all your involvement, in the life of Our Lady's Church. What advice would you give people based on your story, your story of faith? What advice would you give people in their relationship to God and to the church as they try to live out their particular call, their vocation?
Well, I think you have to love God and have great faith in him, and know that whatever you're doing, he's there to help you. You need a strong love for God, and hope that he's listening to you, and I'm sure he does. In whatever way he's leading you, it's the right way. And just love God and just have faith. If you don't have the faith and can't believe in him, what do you have? You have nothing.
Exactly, and how you've lived out, your relationship with God, not alone, not on your own, but very much within a community, a loving, supportive community that you've been very involved with. You've contributed in many ways, and you've received so much.
Oh, I know. It's been wonderful. I don't know of other churches. I'm sure there are some, but we have such a great church.
We do.
We have a great parish, great loving people in that parish, and it's such a blessing.
I could not agree more. Absolutely. Mary Lou, thank you so much for joining us today, and please watch for the next episode of Journeys of Faith.